Hey everyone, welcome to MaleRoom, our show that takes us girls inside the mind of the opposite sex by going straight to the source. So in each episode, we sit down with two different guys to get their perspectives, translate our texts, and provide some tribal knowledge on their very elusive species. So in today's episode, Urban Legends Exposed, we'll be cracking the case on age-old theories that we've seen in rom-coms and advice that we've heard excessively from friends. And we do have one missing man, but these guys will be man enough for all of you. So similarly as to what we did last week, we'd love to take your questions and read your texts and analyze them. Some of you had asked too if the guys on our show are single and if the inventory is available, and the answer is yes. So shoot your shot, I guess we say now, so feel free to do that as well. So guys, I'm going to kick it off by having you introduce yourselves with your name, age, what you do, and the type of guy that you think that you are when it comes to dating.
A for Adam.
Wow, that last question is a stumper. I can answer the other questions, though. My name is Adam Devine. I'm 44. I work in artificial intelligence. And the type of guy that I am in dating, I would say I'm the wholesome conspirator. I'm a good guy at heart, but I also can be a little naughty.
Great. It's a nice contrast.
Hey, it's what came to mind, for better or worse.
We went there already.
Yeah. We'll take it. Ben?
My name's Ben Walker. I'm 37. I'm a branding and marketing expert based in Barcelona, usually. Currently in Costa Rica, kind of locked down for the quarantine. Type of guy I am, I'm bursting full of energy. I never sit down, never watch television, always traveling, always trying to do something brand new. And it takes a lot of energy to keep up with me.
Great. And so I figured we would kick it off with doing a couple urban legends that we can evaluate and see if you guys think these are things that we just tell ourselves or set us straight. So the first one is, are you really intimidated by certain types of women? Or is it something that we just tell ourselves to make each other feel better? Ben?
Go ahead, Ben.
So I think many men, and obviously, I think we have to speak on behalf of men in general, because obviously we could be a little bit different in terms of our position. But I think many men are intimidated by women because there's a kind of hidden subtext to our society which says a man should be dominant in the economics of things. Men kind of date economically across and downwards, and women date economically across and upwards. So I feel like successful and powerful women struggle to find men because men feel a little bit of intimidation from them, that they should be dating across economically and downwards.
I think that's thoughtful. I agree to an extent. I also think that whether or not a man is intimidated by a woman is a measure of that man. If he's confident, secure in himself, and knows who he is, and can appreciate the talents of his partner, then he shouldn't be intimidated. So I would say that if you're a woman and the guy that you're with or trying to be with is intimidated by you, level up.
Yeah, or tell him to man up, I guess. It's also, it could be there could be certain things that you can embrace, like a woman that you're dating has certain talents that you don't have or you strive to have. Let's say she's very artistic and very creative and you're not. Let's say you're a finance guy working in the city, doing your 9 to 5, whatever, coming home, and she's created a masterpiece in the spare bedroom, and you can either feel intimidated by it or wow at it. And I think it also depends on how you look at the relationship, if it is a kind of collaborative partnership or if you're still kind of identifying yourself inside the relationship and questioning where you are rather than kind of building that complete partnership to move forward. So the qualities of each individual are actually the whole quality of the relationship.
Okay. So do you think that if a girl has qualities that you don't, for you, that's interesting? That's not something that you find intimidating or a turn off because you want to show her things and teach her things. You're able to enjoy that, but also teach her things as well.
Yeah, I mean, any relationship, I think one of the basic premises of any relationship is teaching and learning, right? Which is, at the end of the day, you've had some relationship experience. You know how to be inside a relationship. You should hopefully communicate better than you did in your last relationship. And then you need to show that other person how to communicate with you as well. Mm-hmm. So if you're comfortable in that situation, in being able to stop and say, you know, rather than react like that, I'd prefer for you to react like this, because that's something that either rattles me or gets me to change one way or the other. You know, you always have to constantly be teaching and learning. And I think if there are aspects and skills that exist inside the relationship that you don't have, you should encourage that person to get the most out of them as well, you know?
Mm-hmm. All right, switching gears a little bit. Can casual really be casual?
I mean, that's such a huge question. I think it fundamentally depends on life stage. You know, if someone is looking for their long-term partner and they meet someone who wants to be casual, then maybe they can tell themselves, I can do casual, but in the back of their head, their ultimate goal is going to be the operating force. So what they want is going to dictate how they show up in the relationship. So it can be casual if someone has just gotten out of a relationship and they just need to blow off some steam. It can be casual if two people are young and pragmatic about their life stage. But, you know, depends on what someone really, truly wants and whether or not they're being honest with themselves.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I think it's something now that I think there's less pressure now to exist inside a relationship. So I think this kind of subtext that always has been there, where, you know, women or men have entered a relationship with an ideal in mind. We're a little bit more open now. So casual has become a lot more casual because we start to see that there are more things you can do as an individual, you know, and we're also lost in a paradox of choice as well. We have access on tap to new connections, new people inside our demographic that we're looking for. You know, the 30s are the new 20s, so there's no real innate pressure to kind of settle down, hitch, or create babies, whatever, you know. So I think, you know, the casualness does go on a lot more, and we kind of exist inside like cluster communities as well as individuals. So we do jump between like different friend groups, etc. So it can be casual, and I think, you know, what Adam says about wanting to blow off some steam, yes, but these are temporary states as well. These are places that are always temporary, and they're forever changing. So when there's an imbalance and someone then wants to go a little bit deeper into the relationship, the other person might not have evolved to that stage yet. So that's where it becomes conflictual as well.
I think it's also important to define what casual means. I think in no connection should there be a lack of respect and a lack of transparency. You know, I think we've, you know, in the era of ghosting and simmering and all these sort of irresponsible ways.
What's simmering?
Simmering?
Yeah. Like a back burner situation? Like.
So I did this funny thing with a friend of mine who's rather prominent in the relationship world. Her name is Esther Perel. And we got to talking one day, and it was around, I guess it was around 2014 or 2015, and the term ghosting had just emerged. And she hadn't heard about it. So we were talking about what ghosting was. And, you know, her eyes got wide. She's like, tell me about this thing. I don't know what it is.
You sound like her.
Her beautiful Belgian accent. And I think there is a continuum that people operate on when it comes to relationship accountability. And on the far bad side is ghosting. And on the far right side is the power part, where you end a relationship where there is no ambiguity and there's total confidence, and you put that person at ease by closing the door on hope. Because when there's ambiguity, like these middle points where you're simmering someone saying, oh, I'm really busy with work, you know, I'm going to be away for a couple of weeks, but I'll reach out soon, or now is not a good time for me, but I think you're awesome.
I see. So which is also interesting because you're getting attention in return. So it's almost like you can reach out, like keep them at bay. Interesting.
Yeah. And it's not necessarily a negative point. I think it's also because we all strive for interaction. You know, for me, ghosting is the worst thing in the world. Like I think there's nothing worse than ghosting, and it's exactly what Adam says about accountability. we no longer have accountability inside relationships or connections because there's no middleman. You know, we pick up a phone and we drop ourselves into a pot of human beings that exist in all forms of demographics, interests, experiences, locations, and we pick one out and we say, okay, let's see how compatible you and I are. And then we go on these dates, and then suddenly we have fun because we probably share common values and we all follow things on the internet and memes and popular culture. But then when we get a little bit deeper, we start to see that the experience that drove us to these values is very, very different. So then, of course, you know, as I'm not meeting that person around a dinner table, you know, let's say Adam was our mutual friend and you and I are meeting Mindy. So we'll go on a date. It'll be unsuccessful. And no, I'm just saying this is a hypothetical situation. We'll go on a date. It'll be unsuccessful. Yeah. And I will then think, well, why was it unsuccessful? Because Adam vouched for both of us, introduced the two of us, and yet it was an unsuccessful date. So I might then text you that evening and say, look, I feel like it didn't go well tonight. I really think I should give this another chance. Maybe I'm tired. Maybe something was on my mind. Maybe the same with you. I don't know. But I'd like to meet you again. And you might say, yeah, I feel the same. But
I mean, that sounds amazing. I've never heard of anyone being that straightforward. And I think that's great.
Because otherwise you're going to Adam and you're saying, Ben is such an asshole. I texted him after I got home from the date. He didn't reply to me and I haven't seen him since. And now Adam's in a predicament that he's got two close friends who, you know, suddenly like had this date and it doesn't work. So you can't ghost someone when you meet them for a friend, but you absolutely can because you'd have no accountability and you don't owe anyone anything when you meet them on a Tinder or a Bumble or a Hinge or whatever, you know?
That's a great point. And I think that lack of accountability in the way we meet people now has compounded this notion of casual and made it even more ambiguous. Like, is it casual if you're leaving someone hanging for 2 weeks and you're not communicating well? No, that's just being a dick.
Yeah, but also I think there's only so many hours you have. There's only so much time you have, right? Screen time. So we do our things in life and, you know, and then we kind of get to our common broadcasting channels, the Instagrams, the Facebooks, whatever, and then we come into our chats, you know, and I know that my WhatsApp now is both personal life and workflow. So I get overwhelmed by chats. The minute you have 7 chats on your screen, you're already pushing down everything else and forgetting about everything else. So I subconsciously keep people simmering, and I don't mean to do it. And also I keep people simmering because I'm never in the same place for more than 2 weeks, right? So
what should women do in this case? So let's say you have the roster, and a lot of women do too. So let's just say you have your roster and you're chatting with the girl. It's great banter. And then a new one pops up and then that one goes down. Another, like, do you guys like when a girl keeps checking in on apps, or does she need to play hard to get and it's a rainy day and you scroll down and start?
It's not about playing hard to get. Those days are gone, you know, because as I say about the paradox of choice, you know, it's just, there's so much going on. We can just disappear in 2 seconds and find someone else, and that occupies our time, you know. And I think it's not about, you know, I want to be with you or I don't want to be with you. It's a condition of priorities, you know, like what are we prioritizing right now and how many hours in the day do we have to prioritize these things? And I think that back burner, that simmerer, you know, a very good tool for that is Instagram and stories, you know, because people will then just check in via replying to a story, some love hearts in the eyes, or you look so pretty, or, you know, oh, that looks beautiful, I wish I was there. You know, these things kind of keep these little touch points alive, especially for me, for example, if I'm traveling, you know, you have these kind of back and forths with people, but you don't really engage one-on-one. You know, there's very few people I sit down and have FaceTime calls with who were in the courting phase of a relationship, right? You know, it doesn't have to be immediate. These things can take a while. And if you're traveling a lot or you're at a distance or you're in situations like we're in right now, you know, all these apps have incorporated video conversations. So there are ways to do that. But as I say, it's more like, you know, what's your priority right now? Or who's your priority? It's not that one person is or that one person isn't for you. It's just you kind of prioritize things according to time.
Mindy, you asked a very pointed question, which was, does a woman need to play hard to get? Mm-hmm. And the God's honest truth is, if a guy is into a girl, however she shows up, whether she's playing hard to get or she's being communicative, the guy's going to roll with it.
So you think like, you want what you can't have. That was actually a good comment that we just received, which was a question and a comment. But so do you think that this whole hard to get thing is a bit outdated. I understand what you're saying. I think it's great. Maybe it's a gauge for women that when a guy is ready, it's a lot easier. It flows, and it's not as much of a game playing situation.
Look, I think people apparently like some element of mystery.
Yeah.
So I think either a guy or a girl who shows up and is like instantly vulnerable and is texting all the time and calling and just eminently available, that gets boring, and it can also get overwhelming. But I also think that, you have to show up. You have to make yourself available to an extent. So I don't think that this notion of playing hard to get is pragmatic anymore, because as Ben was saying, we are all so starved for time. And if someone plays too hard to get, they're not going to get got.
Yeah. And also the mystery factor, I think, is an important point, both in the coming together of two individuals, they're getting to know each other, and in the sexual sense. Mystery is where eroticism exists, right? Which is where you explore each other, which is why when you start dating someone or seeing someone, the sex is crazier. You push more boundaries, you experiment more, you try new things, you push it and you receive it and you just roll with it. There's not a point where you say, oh, I don't think we should really be doing that. You kind of just roll with it. And as you kind of trade off this mystery as time goes on, and you kind of trade it for security, etc., you start to not want to fall down these levels that you've built up with that person. So you don't want to push the boundaries anymore. And that's the same with, any kind of, conversation in the relationship. The mysterious aspects disappear because you spend so much time and you get to know each other. You know how each other react to different things. You know each other's talents and passions and beliefs. And that always wanes, which is why, when I talk about the relationship being a kind of project together, which is a long-standing project, that's where it's important to understand those roles inside the relationship. You become that unit, right? Rather than kind of two individuals. The individuality is the passions, the individual passions, the goals, the drive. And that's where you need to always see your partner having those individual goals and that individual drive. And she's doing her thing. And I find that very difficult to find that driven woman who keeps me on my toes. And I'm like, could you meet at 7 p.m. on Thursday? And she's like, I've got a conference call with wherever. Let's do 5 p.m. Friday. And I'll be like, that's cool, but that's not playing hard to get. It's just that she's got her own shit going on.
Right.
And that's great.
Now, yeah, I agree. What about this urban legend? Do you guys think with your head or your heart or from the waist down, typically?
I think it depends on the timing. I think initially we think maybe a little bit more below the belt, because that's when pheromones are the most important. That's when physical attraction is the most important. But that only goes so far. There's a period of time where that's the driving force, and then that quickly is balanced by, at least for a guy who's looking for something serious, intellectual stimulation and emotional connection.
Yeah, and I think we do have all three as men. Maybe less emotional. We're not as kind of evidently emotional about things. We probably don't flare up in different situations or overreact and then apologize for behavior. We're more kind of sturdy and we think with our head in that situation. But when you say like thinking with, or on the waist below, we like to have physical connection. Everybody does, right? Physical connection is pure emotion. It's your body's language. When we're talking, we're trying to process what we're really feeling, and we're trying to relay it in something that will relate to you or might carry some sort of relevance. So I need to communicate that using metaphors. I don't know what I'm feeling, and you sure as hell don't know what I'm feeling. So I have to kind of find common ground that you might understand. Now, in general, if you're saying, do men think from the waist down? Okay, someone once told me, and it sticks with me, men tell a long-term lie to get a short-term goal, and women tell a short-term lie to get a long-term goal. And if you can find that common ground between the two, because it's true, it's absolutely true. Women want to settle down more than guys do, it seems. And there are more and more guys in today's society with this, what they call Peter Pan syndrome, or is it really? It's Peter Pan syndrome, which is boundaried by old societal values, which are probably outdated now. There's more things to do when you're sat at home at 9 p.m. at night than there were 20 years ago. You can.
Well, then there were 2 weeks ago, 2 months ago.
Yeah. I mean, just 20 years ago, you sat at home, and if you didn't have a partner or you didn't have someone around you, there was no way to reach out to anyone else, really. there was the Lonely Hearts Club, which was not seen as cool until kind of Tinder came around or Match came around. So we'd sit at home and we'd be like, what is my life? Now we kind of look at everybody else's life and say, well, that's cool. They're living that. I can live it too. I can do these things. I can chase new experiences. So I think also we have to kind of take into the account the individuality of everybody allows us to kind of step back and say, well, I don't really need to be in a relationship right now. You know, why should I, when I can just see someone's Instagram story, see they're at a bar down the road from me, join them, and I don't have to tell anyone about it. So we're changing now. And I don't think it's the kind of balance of those three of the head, the heart, the below the waist. But I feel like now we do have more options to think with more of those things. You know, okay, we want to think solely below the waist for the whole weekend. Hey, let's do that. And let's hang out with somebody who had the most passionate time and great, and we can flare it up with fantasy and ideas of maybe what we might look like in the future. But in general, I think, you know, it's been the same as ever, but there's just more that we can be doing now, you know?
Yes, amen to that. So we're gonna jump into one of our segments, which is called text translations. If you could see this. So basically, you know, texting has single-handedly killed or helped your game, depending on what you're looking for these days, especially with everything changing. But for a lot of girls, it's a psychological minefield. So what we do in the segment is we have women submit their text and have you guys translate for them. So these are pretty quarantine themed. So want to know your opinions. The first one came from a dating app, since it sounds like a lot more people have embraced those during this time. And the second is a true text. So I'm going to do the characters, because normally we have you guys read them, but we'll improvise here. So I'll try to do my man voice again, see how that goes. So this one's short and sweet, but let us know how you'd answer. So the guy, hi, what's your story? In what way? What's your deal? Okay, so this is the text chain that this girl received. The guy's asking what her story is. She's not quite sure how to answer that, so she asks for a little more clarity and gets the what's your deal. So how do you recommend that a girl should answer that?
She should not answer that. That is a guy that is machine gunning that same question to every single woman.
What does it mean?
Waiting for a woman who will take the bait and spill her guts and just be available to meet and hook up.
Yeah.
Next. This is not a guy to engage in. This is a guy who's optimizing for a quick, short, superficial time.
Yeah, and obviously your tone of voice drove us towards that side of things. But, you know, I would only ever say, I mean, it was a good impression. I would only ever say, what's your story, if I had already explained my story, right? It would, you know, be like, okay, if I'm connecting with someone here in Costa Rica where I am right now, I'd be like, okay, I came here, blah, blah, and I was in this house before and now I'm somewhere else, and I'm just here for quarantine. You know, what's your story? You know, so I've already kind of given her the points that I'd like to hear from her, right?
She'd be like, I'm a Scorpio. I enjoy, or like, I'm holed up in my apartment with my plant. Like, I think it's hard to tell which way to go with it. But are you both unanimously saying that, or one of you says skip it, the other says give it a shot?
I say skip it completely.
Okay,
the other thing too is that he has obviously not spent any time to think about her photos and read what she's written, because he could have easily asked a question like, where were you in that picture? It's beautiful. Or I read that same book, or what did you think of it? You know, ask a question that's thoughtful, that's based on doing a little teeny bit of homework.
Right. It's very lazy, and it's a typical approach, like Adam said, the numbers game.
Okay, next one. This one actually, I'd love your opinions on in general, and then we did have a very active participant. I want to be your Chromeo. Thanks for all your comments. So we want to take this answer in the direction of also during this time, how you would approach it. So here we go. And scene. Hey yourself, up for an adventure? What did you have in mind? Anything. A hike? Drive through Times Square at midnight? Or burying ourselves in a new show? What do you think? So question is, during this time, how much would you guys recommend meeting new people, A, and B, do the rules change now because of this? Because normally, if, let's say, me or one of my friends met someone, we wouldn't be watching a show right away before you meet them. It could be a serial killer. There's not like the time to do any courting, getting to know someone. So at the same time, I think a lot of people that are single don't want to be alone right now. So this is a two-part question on the text itself, and then also on this time, you know, what do we think? Are you guys going on dates? Are you holding out? Born again virgins? What's happening?
This guy is an aimless loose cannon. The fact that he's giving her all these different options right off the bat, number one, means that he's indecisive. So he's kind of like holding up a gigantic menu and saying, pick whatever you want. I think particularly early on in dating, it's really important for a man to propose a pragmatic, interesting, thoughtful plan and be unwavering in it. Don't give too many options. But I think he's way premature in suggesting any kind of a physical get-together, unless this has been going on for a while. But it sounds like
first time exchange.
Yeah, that's presumptuous. It's premature and it's aimless. This guy is a skip. And as for whether or not it makes sense to meet during these times, I think, you know, maybe you start with FaceTime and then you talk about whether or not, I mean, I'm in New York City where a lot of people have had COVID-19. I have, and I have tested positive for antibodies. So I'm a little more.
He's ready.
Congratulations.
I'm feeling better too,
to meet people in person, but I think you have to be really sensitive and thoughtful. And it's like, you know, that conversation that you have about your respective STD status that usually you have well into the relationship, like once you're ready to be intimate, we're kind of having that same conversation now about COVID-19. You know,
how do you approach the STD convo? Side note.
I think you have that conversation before you have sex.
Like, you know? At dinner or something, not in the moment?
No, certainly not in the moment. I think, you know, any guy with any level of intuition is going to know when intimacy is you know, a prospect.
Yeah.
And I think a good guy will bring it up at the right time. And, you know, I don't think people should be sleeping together right off the bat. So if you feel awkward about having that conversation, then you shouldn't be sleeping together.
So I think there's a couple of things I agree on, a couple of things I don't agree on. I'm glad we're getting to a point where we don't agree on certain things, Adam.
Yeah, bring it on.
Yeah. So, I mean, no, it's opinion, it's experience. You know, it's not right. So, firstly, I don't think there's anything wrong with his message up until the point where he does give multiple options and says film, for example. Now, going on a hike and watching a film is very, very different. Okay, like. It's a typical Netflix and chill scenario, okay? So that's obviously by him leading with the hike and the whatever else and finishing up with just chilling and watching a film, it's clear what he wants, and that's just to watch a film. It shows her that he's active. It shows her that he's got an energy and a lust for life and whatever, but clearly, given that other option, he's willing to not even go through with that. You know, if I wanted to go on a hike, I'd say, listen, I want to go hiking. I found this great spot. If you want to come with me, I'm going to go on Saturday. Come with me. Yeah, okay, the COVID thing, which I've done, by the way. I was in South Africa, I think, or somewhere, and Cape Town, and connected with a girl, and we went on a hike. I can't remember where we went exactly. We went on a hike or a drive, and then we've been friends ever since. You know, and dating apps. You know, I was also the director of Spain for Tinder for like a year and a half. So my approach to dating apps as well, in terms of like what we pushed for in user acquisition, is to get people on there who are even in relationships. You know, to kind of get people to meet new people if they move into new locations, whatever. So my approach is when you connect with someone, there's a blank slate. And it's the same thing whenever someone asks the question, what are you looking for on here? I always say all or nothing. And they say, well, what do you mean? I say, well, if we meet and we get along and things are great and they develop, then that's great. And if I'm continuing to enjoy myself, then I will seek to continue to enjoy myself with you. If things aren't great, then it'll be a date that's not great, and that's that. But I do, because I'm someone who's very social, I tend to spend less time on the chit-chat of it and do move to the experience of things. And I usually like look at their Instagram. There's been situations where we've had a quick FaceTime just to discuss, just to make sure we look like in our photos, etc. But also, like, in terms of getting to the intimacy point, what Adam said, you know, you should take a while to get to intimacy. I disagree, because intimacy plays a major, and when I talk about intimacy, I'm meaning sex. It plays a major part of any of my relationships. I'm somebody who enjoys sex. I'm somebody who's sexual. I'm somebody who wants them to enjoy sex as well. And there's two issues. Number one, you might not like their bits. You might like their breasts, their vagina. They might not like your penis. You might not like how they react to you, giving them pleasure, or you might not like how they give you pleasure, or there just won't be a compatibility. Now, if you spend time developing in a relationship and suddenly you get to that point and you're like, fuck, now what about this? It's not going well. Suddenly you kind of have to step back and say, well, everything else is right, but these things aren't right. There's no passion there. And when I say about
test the merchandise or test the chemistry as part of getting to know someone early on, so you're not far down the road.
As soon as possible. You have to know that you like each other's bits and you're compatible sexually.
Well, here's the thing. I don't disagree with that, but I think, you shouldn't. One should not sleep with someone right off the bat, like first date, unless the chemistry is just unbelievable and somehow you feel like a really deep emotional connection. Yeah. I think it's ultimately it's about personal preference, but I think it's so cheap and easy to sleep with, lots and lots of people right off the bat these days that I think one is better served investing at least a few dates, 3, 4, maybe 5 before you jump right into this.
One of my ex-girlfriends, I slept with her on the first day and we were with each other for 3 years, and another ex-girlfriend, we didn't sleep with each other for 2 to 3 weeks and we were with each other for 1.5 years. So there are different scenarios for different people, and it's what you say, Adam. It's what chemistry is there and how things just flow. If anything feels forced or if anything feels uncomfortable, then you don't go through with it. But at the end of the day, there's no rules for two individuals in something reciprocal. There's no rules defined. Okay, we can look at society's rules, or we can have people frown upon the things we do. But at the end of the day, if we want to be sunbathing topless around other people in a pool, or we want to do these, we can do that over a couple. We can hang out and do these things. No one's really here to judge us or tell us to do this or do that. That's where we start to go wrong.
All right, guys, jumping into our next segment. This is called Woman on the Street, now called Woman Not on the Street, with special correspondent Anita Mann, which is me in disguise at this moment. So this is just a quick lightning round of some questions, one of which I'm actually going to take from our stream here. What do you miss the most about dating right now in our current climate? Adam?
I mean, companionship. We're all spending a lot of time by ourselves these days, and I think you can only get so much companionship from looking at your phone and talking to someone on a house party or Zoom.
Me, it's the experiences, like going for nice meals, being surrounded in an environment that sets the tone of your relationship. Like I said, I'm never someone to sit at home and watch TV. I don't watch Netflix. I try to watch things, but I just kind of lose interest. I read a lot of books. So I like to have my own alone time as well. And I'm someone who's always kind of out there and social and meeting with friends for dinner. And Barcelona's like that. Having lived in Barcelona, restaurants aren't overpriced. Good wine is $20 instead of $100 like you got in New York. So it's very easy to go out and eat, and it's very social. It's a very cosmopolitan city, and you'll be posting on Instagram, we're going to this restaurant, join us, and you'll suddenly have a group of people. So I miss that from dating, the fact that you can just say, well, let's go to this great restaurant and grab some wine and grab some food. And you don't have to worry about a thing. Everything's being washed up for you. You're paying for good service and good experience. But mostly it's that for me.
Okay. And what's your best opening line these days on text or an app? What's your opener?
I'm actually really curious about this. I wouldn't even call it a line. I'm just curious to hear what everyone's silver lining is. This is obviously a terrible situation for the world, but I've heard a lot of really good stories about people learning new things or becoming closer with certain friends or taking care of a parent. So I'm always keen to hear how someone is making the best of the situation and what their silver lining is.
So I can give you an example of what I opened with on a Hinge today.
Oh, so today? This is very timely.
Hinge, Hinge allows you to like one of their photos or something they've written, and then add a comment as you like them, right? So when they see your like or your connection request, they'll see what you've written as well. So I liked a photo of this girl in a black dress. She was out and about, right? Or at a bar or something, very nice black dress. And so I liked that photo and wrote, "Shut up and marry me," right? Just as a joke. I wrote, "Shut up and marry me," right? Anyway, she responded like, "Ha ha ha, blah, 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 what's up? How's it going?" And I was like, "Great." I said, "Now we have to find the situation where we can take you somewhere so you can wear that black dress,
Ooh, smooth. Did you say like my bedroom?
No, not my bedroom, but like I said, in the new world, when all this is over, like we have to find somewhere to take you so you can wear that black dress, So it's not like one line fits all. It's relating to, okay, the "shut up and marry me" thing could apply to any moment, right? And if someone's got a sense of humor, they'll get it. If they think you're a psycho, they won't, But hey,
yeah.
So it has to be relating to what's going on with them, And I think Adam, I understand. Like Adam, I understand your emotional capacity and your capacity to kind of learning and understanding and having like a deeper conversation. And I think these are things that people can't even reflect on themselves right now, And they might think that you're digging too deep when you're still in shallow waters, So I think,
mind you, it depends on the context, right? So with Hinge, that is the great thing about Hinge is you can comment on a photo, and I would never comment on a photo like, "Hey, what are you learning right now?" But with something like Raya, it is such a shallow platform, and it is so, loaded with over stylized Instagram photos and whatnot that
models.
I actually think it's a good litmus test of someone to go, not like in the full deep end, but hey, what book are you reading right now, or how are you spending your time?
You can't read.
Well, these are what the apps are trying right now. I noticed on Bumble they've got questions now where you ask a question, you both have to answer, and the answer isn't revealed until you've both answered. And this is, of course, almost gesture-driven dating. It allows people who may not have game, right? Referring to Neil Strauss's book, for example, who may not have game and don't know what to say, and suddenly you've got these kind of stimulating points and questions that might unleash something within that lets you get closer together. But I don't know if you read a few years ago, there were like 37 questions to love from the New York Times.
Yeah.
I've done that with 2 girls, gone through the whole questions, and it works. I don't know if it was like the right timing or whatever, but
yeah,
each question gets deeper and deeper and deeper and brings you closer together, and really like dives into your emotions. And we don't do that. We date on the surface, we connect on the surface now, and we keep everything else like locked up a lot deeper. And there's only very, very few people that I have that I can have deeper conversations about emotions and ideas and working on myself and problems that I have in my life. So we have a lot of acquaintances these days because of social media, and we connect to a lot of people. And myself traveling, I'm in New York a lot, I'm in Miami a lot, I'm in Barcelona and London a lot. So I have kind of multiple sets of groups of friends that I just don't have time to get deep with them, So it's the same with dating. It's, I have to start on the surface, and it's also humor. Like I like to laugh, I like to joke, I like to have fun. If someone's too deep, too drony, I'm just going to be like, okay, I can't continue this. Okay, when we get there, we'll get there, but let's just laugh and have fun first,
Do you guys feel like opposites attract for you? That was a question we just got. As far as urban legends, opposites attracting, is that something you guys have experienced that's true, or do you think that's untrue?
True and untrue. I think each individual is an individual. I don't think, like.
Would you want to date yourself if you could? Someone that's just like you?
Well, in a sense, or someone who's just like the passions I might have, or like the incomplete goals that I haven't attained yet. I would love to. I just walked out here earlier and I saw there was a place that said art classes, and I've always found it fascinating to understand a woman who spends time inside her art and craft and can develop it and be switched off to the world. Because I'm someone that runs an agency and I have to be switched on to certain things. And for people who can disconnect and just maybe put their phone down for 4 or 5 hours is something very inspiring to me. And I'm attracted to that. because I'd love to be able to do that as well. But it's not who I am and it's not what I do.
I think any good relationship is a Venn diagram, like the two overlapping circles.
Mm-hmm.
The middle part is, as Ben was saying, common interests, common objectives. But then like the outer part of both circles, you've got to be drawn into someone else's world that maybe is unfamiliar to you, or you want to learn something that they can do, or you want to experience something that they're uniquely able to provide you. And I think there has to be that kind of tension pulling you into a new and exciting direction for you. But there's got to be some commonality. So yeah, what Ben said, it's true and untrue.
Okay. And Ben, someone wants to know specifically if you think that I believe it's Weigel actually, Weigel 291 would like to know if you find that your accent is a solid competitive advantage.
My accent's really changed over the years. I left London 14 years ago. I've been living in Barcelona, which, as I said, is a very cosmopolitan city. So when I sit around brunch tables with people, we're like 12 people from 12 different countries. So I've had to slow my English down, broaden it a little bit. So a lot of people now think I'm South African or Australian a little bit. But if I'm in the States, for example. Sorry?
Do you think you close more deals or convert more ladies with your variations of accents?
Variations. I mean, I don't know if that's the catalyst for it, but I've had comments, I love your accent, especially from American girls love it. And there used to be an advert, actually, I saw for Las Vegas. It said, Las Vegas, go somewhere where your accent is an aphrodisiac. And it's kind of true. Like, American girls love British accents. And I don't try and put it on because, I could talk more like James Bond talks. Hello, darling, how are you? Nice to see you. Look beautiful tonight. But no, it's more like, when I'm in the States, I kind of move towards more Americanisms, So I start to use y'all, but just for fun. And
why not?
I don't know if it's just part of everything, right? I don't know if that's the single thing. There's only so many bedtime stories you can read, right?
Yes, correct. What about your types? Do you guys have signature type of ladies that you go for, or are you equal opportunity? What are they like?
I do. I think if I look back on all the women I've dated, they've all been elegant dorks.
Could you elaborate on that?
Like they have they have their own kind of beauty and grace, but underneath the attractiveness, they geek out on something. They have some sort of a passion or a draw that lights them up, and they can be slightly nerdy about it. So I think that contrast of beauty and elegance and just sheer nerdiness is really attractive to me.
I don't have a type. Like there are certain qualities and values that I seek, which I think I have, like self-improvement. I want someone to always have a passion to be learning. Fitness, eat healthy, work out, look after your body, try and be optimized as an individual, and then referring to passions, it's it puts me at an admiration standpoint when somebody has a passion that I don't have, or somebody does this thing and they don't stop doing it as soon as they come into a relationship. They continue to do it, because often people kind of lose a little bit of the essence of themselves as they get into relationships, and obviously when they come out of relationships, they have to spend time to get back to the essence of themselves as well. So, it's somebody who will like have that, and it will remain prevalent inside the relationship, even as it develops to the deepest depths of it. Like they still continue to do these things, and they're still growing and working on whatever aspects those things are. But looks wise, I've dated tall blonde, I've dated short brunette, I've dated.
Any redheads?
No, not anything more than like dinner. Not anything more than dinner. I mean, nothing against redheads, but just there's less of them. There's less of them in the world, right? It's.
What did you say, Adam? We got to dinner with the redhead.
We're only 2% of the population, so we're kind of hard to find.
Yeah.
Especially living in Spain for 14 years, let me tell you.
So if you want to find your compatible person, Spain is where it's at. If you do gravitate to redheads.
But my biggest problem as well in Spain, for example, is it's not like America. There's no drive for women there. I know very few women in Spain who have a drive and who have their shit together. Like there's hardly any women there. And I've had relationships in second languages. So I dated a French girl, I've dated a Spanish girl, I've dated a Colombian girl, and where English was their second language, you only really have one emotional language that you can fully express yourself in. And it's very, very difficult. And I've said to myself now, I will only date somebody whose native language is English. And that means me dating someone who's American or someone who's British living in Spain. So I'm starting to now narrow down my options living in Barcelona, right? I think dating a local girl is probably out. I can't express myself in Spanish. I'm fluent. I talk it proficiently in business every day. But when it comes to emotion, I don't know what I sound like. I don't know if I say the wrong thing or, I can mix up things. So, it's difficult. It's difficult to find that type or kind of the qualities that I need, right?
What about age? Where do you guys stand on age?
I think it's more about life stage than anything else. I think it's for me, being in my 40s, it'd be difficult to date someone in their mid 20s. I know guys who do that. Mm-hmm. It's not really for me. I think, people generally start to figure out who they are when they're in their late 20s, 30s. 30s is a good range for me, I think. But New York is a weird place. Ben was saying before that we have so many social opportunities in a city like New York or maybe Barcelona to an extent or London that to marry in your late 20s, which is what most of the United States does, it's like, are you kidding me? That's madness. I have no idea who I am. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, I think 30s is a good decade for me.
A woman in her 30s, and we're supposed to be brutally honest here, right? From my experience, a woman in her 30s has a hidden motive towards settling down. The clock is ticking, and they want to know if you're potentially the one. And a girl in her late 20s doesn't. She's still happy to roam about, explore things, experiment things. And that's part of what I love about a woman is her kind of almost naive approach to certain things and seeing that kind of learning process as well, rather than having like a definition of where you want that relationship to go, because then every single conversation kind of directs it towards that. Like you should be doing these things because this is what my vision of the future looks like. And I find that women 30 upwards are already there. They're already thinking about, well, I need to have a child soon. I need to have my life in order a lot earlier than a guy needs to have his life in order because I need to have a child. And of course, a man as a father, for me, there's no age requirements. It's your energy levels, your ability to keep up with that child as that child grows up. So, my parents had me at 40, and no, I didn't notice anything in terms of their age difference with other parents who were younger. So there's probably like a psychological factor that by 40, within 3 years' time, I'd probably need to find that person. But I think that person could be 10 to 12 years younger than myself. And I guess that applies to you, Adam, because you're in your 40s now and you're talking 30s. But right now, I'm talking, 25 upwards. If I wanted to have a serious relationship with somebody who's got her shit together, who has her own personality, doesn't latch on to me either socially or financially, has her own things going on.
At
25.
What about, do you feel like you're in like a fun stage, would you say? Like getting to know someone, keeping it, or you're...
No, I'm all or nothing. Like I say to everyone when they say, what are you here for? Mm-hmm. And yes, fun is a major part of things. I love to go out. I love to be around groups. And to be dating a girl, many situations I would have like one date with a girl and then I'll be like, I'm going out with some friends. Do you want to come? And it's almost like a subliminal test that I want to see how she integrates into new scenarios and situations, because my life is quite random. I might have someone who'll call me up and say, Ben, can we have a Skype call on Monday? And I'll say, listen, I'll fly to London and we'll have a meeting instead. So I'll go to London, it's a 2-hour trip from Barcelona, or same with Miami or New York. And if I want someone to be like, sure, let's go there as well. And just being able to like immerse themselves and adapt to different situations, which is what I've been doing for the last.
Spontaneity is obviously very important to you because that keeps coming up. We got a lot of ladies doing Ben, what? That's a one comment. There's a girl in her 20s. She's ready to have kids. That could be interesting.
Sorry, this is a potential suitor. Is this what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
In her 20s. She can hop on a flight right now. But then we have girls in their 30s.
On a flight right now, but hey.
All right, also, we'll get to that info later. But I think what we're trying to get to too is women in their 30s are also commenting, and they're giving you some heat because they feel like if you're at that stage, why such a big gap in, I don't know what shows you watch. Some people feel like culturally it's really strange if you're throwing out references and someone may not get it, or as you age, you may not have the same goals, energy level. What do you think about that for women that feel like someone in their 20s may not have it together? It sounds like maybe we're wanting both.
Well, that's kind of okay for someone to not, have it together. You don't have to have everything together ever, in theory. If you're somebody who's always exploring new angles and new ideas, new passions, hobbies, whatever, you're never going to have it all together, and nor do you want to have it all together. And I think any kind of stage, Adam said, what stage are you at? I think every stage is temporary, number one. I think, where I could be in a headspace now, I might think, okay, I think it'd be great to be in a relationship. And the reason being is because I love to dine out. I love to go to good restaurants. I love to travel, and I love to stay at nice hotels when I travel and have a good experience. If I'm disconnecting, I want to enjoy them. And these are things that I don't want to do with guy friends, groups of guy friends. I want to be able to have a moment, enjoy the experience, have great service, great food, good wine. And that's something that's important for me. And that could be done, with a 26, 27-year-old who's got things together, especially from London or the US, not in Spain, because in Spain, I feel like the 20s is pretty much a lost generation because no one really makes any money. No one really has money to spend on things. They can't really develop themselves culturally too much because they don't travel too often either.
So what about women in their 30s who may not want to have kids yet? What if they're early to mid 30s? There's women having kids in their 40s. What if it's just a cool 33-and-a-half-year-old woman who is down to do all the things? Will she still get a shot, or is your criteria?
Yes, because age is nothing but a number. But I'm trying to peg an age to a state of mind.
Yeah.
I'm trying to peg an age to someone who doesn't try to direct a conversation or actions with a subliminal subtext of where she wants to be in 2 years' time, right? Like we live now, and we should be continuing to live now. And maybe if we think we've had enough of the now, and we think this is a great now that we're both living in, laughing and loving and whatever, and we say, how can we design the future of this now? Then sure, we sit down and we design that future. But for a girl to, especially on dating apps, saying, what are you looking for here? Or it seems like you're just looking for sex, or it seems like you just want to like have fun and just party or whatever. You're not looking for anything serious. I don't know. I'm not going to tell you I'm looking for something serious off the bat. No, because maybe I'll tell you this thing. You'll start to form this idea in your mind. We'll sit down for dinner, and then you'll just be trying to identify how I'll probably fit in your lifestyle in the future. And you'll start to fantasize about us. And that's not the reality of our relationship, because, the things we don't know about the other person, we fill in with little aspects of fantasy, and we construct this person. And when that bubble pops, I'm going to say, well, I'm sorry that the idea that you had of me isn't who I was. So you need to take these aspects, and you need to live in the now to kind of get to know that person.
Okay. Makes sense. Adam, any closing remarks before we get into the last segment?
You mean on the age topic?
Yes.
I think ultimately age is a number, and life stage is important. If there can be a 40-year-old that doesn't want to have kids and just wants to play, in which case that's not going to be a good person for someone who wants to settle down and has the long term in mind to be with.
And there could be a 45-year-old who no longer wants to be in a serious relationship trying for children. You know, you could reverse back the other way. You know, because as we say, it's easier to connect to people nowadays. You're not going to seem like an outcasted social reject if you're 45 and not married. If people say to me, "What's wrong with you?" And I say, "What do you mean?" And they say, "Well, you're 37 years old. You seem to have your shit together, and you're not in a relationship, and you're on a dating app." And I say, "Well, it's a stage right now. I've been in great relationships, and I'm good friends with all of them. I've ended every relationship honestly, and speak to all my exes, no problem. But right now, I'm choosing to be single, and it is a choice nowadays. You can choose to be single. You know, you can carry on your life. Like I said, there's so much we can be doing. Years ago, if you wanted to, let's say, jump out of a plane and parachute, you wouldn't know how to go about it. You'd call up George and say, "George, remember that guy you spoke to at the pub, and he said he was like a skydiver or something? I'd like to do it. Maybe you could like reach out." It'd be like a whole month process to find a new hobby or find a new passion. Now we go on Instagram or the internet, and we can jump out of a plane tomorrow. So
yeah.
Possibilities are limitless. You know, do we have to do that with a partner? No. You know, we can do a lot of things alone.
All right. So to close everything off, now we are jumping into our last segment, just the tips. It's our most consensual part of the show. So we want to have each of you give your last one tip of something that every girl should know.
One tip every girl should know.
I think the faster that a woman shows up as her true authentic self, the faster she's going to know if that person is right for her. I think a lot of people, men and women, but I think probably more women than men, like Ben was saying, that sort of short-term lie for a long-term goal, skip it. You know, just fast forward right to who you are, particularly right now. You know, I think people are craving vulnerability and authenticity along with fun and, you know, some spontaneity, but just show up as who you are. And if that person isn't interested in who you are, then you've saved yourself some time.
Great.
I think a basic tip, and also like a generalization, maybe a metaphor for life, is to be a yes person. And when I talk about the ability to immerse and adapt in different situations, whether that's, you know, pulling someone into a gathering of friends or, you know, taking a spontaneous trip, it's developed such an ability that you trust in it when someone throws a curveball at you and you have to react and you have to adapt. And that means saying yes to things and understanding that amazing things happen on the other side of yes, but it's also the energy you apply into that new situation. It's not like I'm out of my league, oh my God, I have anxiety. It's not like I've never done this before, I don't know what to do. It's like I'll embrace it and I'll do it. And if you do that, that means you'll you know, and it's not adapting to somebody, it's your ability to adapt to the situation. And if you work on that and focus on that, then you can apply it to absolutely anywhere and still be authentic to you, because it's something, you know, maybe you take qualities of learning from different things or the experience, or you note things down or you write journals. However you record these new experiences, say yes to things, go out and do it. And if the guy says, let's go hike, okay, yes, do your security checks. Tell a friend that you're going with this guy on Instagram for a hike. You know, so don't come back. Share your location, whatever you need to do. Like, you know, the world is a bad place, and so, you know, people here in Tamarindo in Costa Rica where I'm staying, they say, oh, we don't go out after dark. Okay, so we do have, you know, certain things that could happen, but say yes to things. You want to go on a hike? Sure, let's go on a hike. Girls, guess what? I went on a hike with this guy last Saturday. It wasn't very fun. I'm probably not going to go on a hike again. Okay, now you know you don't like hikes. You don't know what you like doing until you do it once, right? So I'd say be a yes person. Say yes to things, because amazing things happen on the other side of yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. There's definitely some interest on the live stream for both of you. So it's been some good ROI to have you on. And ladies, there's a lot more mail to go through next time. See you then.